Good evening and welcome to our practice session. So, if you are a Catch 25 aspirant who wants to get a head start, then we are conducting in fact a series of lectures where we are giving you a lot of inputs on how you can prepare and what all resources you can use. And apart from that, yes, we are sitting down here helping you even practice with us together so that you go on to become even better. So see, at the end of the day, the more you practice with your mentors, with your faculty members, the better it is for you, because that enables you to approach the questions the way we approach it. And that's something that is our eventual goal. So throughout this session, if you happen to have any question, any issue, any concern, do not hesitate in bringing it my way, and I would try my best to help you with it. So let's go ahead and start. If you happen to have any questions, then please send those questions my way. Let's take those questions first. For those of you who are new here, hey, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We bring in tons of content which is highly relevant for you and your preparation. And I am sure going through that will definitely help you. Okay. And just in case you haven't met me yet, my name is Vikrant Kathuria. I am your personal coach for all things related to English and communication skills. Okay. DP Entertainment, hi. Hi back at you too. So, considering that you are a CAT 25 aspirant, chances are very high that you're just about starting. And I will keep that in mind while taking you through the questions today. Huh? So I have tried to keep the difficulty level okay-ish, relatively towards the side of people who are beginners. So if you're somebody who's a veteran who's been preparing for months and months and months, then chances are that you probably would be you may find these relatively easier. Okay, but then the goal is to practice some things together, to talk about these different question types in greater detail, and then in general see how things go, how things shape up. Let's see. Prince, good evening. Good evening, Prince. Hi, Durga. Hey, Durga, you've been attending my sessions for a while, I guess. DP Entertainment says, I'm very weak at English and I'm also from state board. Welcome to the club. I am from a state board. I am from a small town. I am from Hindi medium background. So basically studied in vernacular. And I teach. I happen to have 100% and 100% tile in the VARC section of the CAD exam. How about that? So, सब हो जाएगा यार. I just took a session a couple of days ago at this very channel where we talked about how you can start your preparation. So if you're weak, I very strongly recommend that you work on vocabulary and that you increase your reading. Whatever spare time that you have, just start putting that into reading. And I am sure you would become excellent in no time. IF says, is this video relevant for CAT ZAT25? Yeah, you are just a couple of weeks away from the exam. You require a certain difficulty level and certain approach. I don't think I'd be adapting that or following that in this session today. You can stick around if you want to, but yeah, I would not really call it highly relevant for somebody who is 2 weeks away from the exam. This session is oriented more towards somebody who is 52 weeks away from the exam. That kind of 50 weeks at least. Okay. So let's go ahead and dive into a practice. So I will take you through a passage which has been spread across 3 slides, right? So you are supposed to read it, and after reading it, you're supposed to let me know that, hey, I've read it. Let's move over to the next one in case I haven't switched over to the next one yet. And after that, we can sit down and talk. We can look at the questions, attempt them, discuss them, and then move on. So here is the first half of the first paragraph on your screen right here. So passage 1, the first half of the first paragraph. So go ahead, read it, and then let me know how it goes. So as I said, this is a half of a passage. So there is a continuation happening here. All right, so I am assuming that we are through reading it and we can move over to our next slide. So here is the next one. Okay. All right, so taking you over to the next paragraph. Here you go. All right, so I think we are done. So let's go ahead and dive into the questions. But before that, were you comfortable reading this? So if I talk about the last few years of the CAT exam, one area that from where the passages have appeared with relatively higher frequency is biology. Okay. And even in biology, there has been a little this tilt towards zoology, and this passage talks about fungi, which is the plural word for fungus. So all of us know fungus as mold, or maybe as yeasts, as mushrooms. Okay. So this passage essentially focuses on that particular aspect. Now you notice that the challenge within RC can come from the genre from which the passage was taken from, and that is why we constantly keep reminding you of the fact that you are supposed to read, and not just that, your reading should be extensive and eclectic. Which means that extensive you already know, eclectic simply means that you go ahead and read books from different genres, different authors. So but whichever level you are at today, pick up books accordingly. Okay, pick up texts which are a little challenging for you, not a whole lot challenging, but a little challenging for you. And as your level improves, you can gradually start picking up more and more challenging texts, where eventually you should be comfortable reading non-fiction, including non-fiction belonging to areas like political theory, psychology, philosophy, anthropology, sciences, technology. Okay, so we have talked about the high frequency areas or genres elsewhere in our videos on this channel, and as we move forward we will we will share that with you as well. But just to start, uh, passages based on, in fact, I'd say sociology, anthropology, ecology, biology. Okay, these are then science and technology. These are relatively high frequency areas, and then the usual suspects like philosophy, psychology, political theory, they definitely remain in the fray. So these are the kind of areas and things that you do want to read, and you know that in order to become familiar with these different genres, the best source is a book, a beginner's book from that area. But apart from that, we get a lot of passages from websites like Eon Essays, The Guardian, the New York Times. So you definitely want to go ahead and read these sources. Smithsonian, Scientific American, there are more, Economist, The Economist. Okay, so make sure that you do that. Nehanshi, I have already answered this question in my previous session that I conducted a couple of days ago, where I said that if you're a beginner, I want you to start attempting 10 passages every week for the next 10 weeks. Okay. So some of you said that we were uncomfortable reading the passage, we couldn't understand it well. So let me rewind. Let's see. Here is the first slide. So let's read it together and then we'll dive into the questions. Okay. So collaboration between mycologists and conservationists. So who's a mycologist? A mycologist is somebody who studies mycology. What is mycology? Mycology is the science of fungi. So fungi are basically things like molds, yeasts, mushrooms, lichens, etc. Right? So there are people who study fungi, and then there are people who are conservationists who want to protect the different species in an environment, right? So they collaborate, but then their efforts to collaborate have been hampered. If something is hampered, it means that it is getting adversely, negatively impacted. So what is affecting it negatively? Well, there are knowledge gaps in fungal distributional and ecological data. We do not know where all fungi is found and what is the ideal environment for them. So these knowledge gaps persist chiefly because fungi are frequently invisible or of indeterminate form. You do not even know how a fungi is supposed to look like. And they show a propensity. Propensity is a tendency to switch between forms. So a particular variety of fungus may have a form today it may have a different form the next week. Okay, so fungi, although ubiquitous, something which is ubiquitous is something which is present everywhere. They are hyper diverse. It basically means that you get a vast source of varieties. They are and they're hyper diverse and fascinating, are challenging and frustratingly elusive. Elusive is something which is difficult to grasp, difficult to see, difficult to spot. Despite the eye-catching and prolific display of spore-bearing structures, for example, mushrooms, produced by some species, they are generally regarded as, because as I think what must have meant here, they're regarded as elusive because when not sporulating, most are composed of nothing more substantial than a wispy network of mycelium. So there are just these thin white strands. That's all. The mycelium is nothing but some thin white strands. So fungi therefore constitute a large and yet largely hidden presence within soil and inside other living things. This makes them difficult subjects to characterize, survey, monitor, and then comparison. I think this particular paragraph was relatively easier. Anything here that you were bothered by, and then you can go ahead and ask. More or less fine. There are some technical words here, yes, but then you are not supposed to be a technical individual. So if there is a technical word, rest assured they are not really going to create questions where the understanding of that technical word will be critical to the answer. Okay, then the next, once again, fairly easy, I guess. A lot of you in fact said so. So let's get into the question. So you may get a question like this. So why is knowledge gap present in fungal distributional and ecological data? Now, okay, go ahead and answer this question and then we'll talk, okay? So take your time, answer this question and then we'll talk. Okay, so the answers are streaming in. This is practically my first practice session for CAT 25. So I'm kind of using this to look at the level of the people that I'm working with and what kind of stuff we need to really work together on. So C, absolutely yes. So these questions are called specific detail questions, or another label for them that we use is fact-based questions. So I have more of these for you today. In the actual exam, you don't get very many specific detail questions, but for a beginner, these are good question types to start with because they allow us to establish the importance of something very useful. Now, every fact-based question requires you to have this ability to go back to the right area in the passage. Now, how do you go back to the right area of the passage? Well, you are able to do that if you have successfully managed to create a mental overview of the passage. Now ask yourself, when you were reading this passage, at the end of the reading, at the end of going through those 3 slides, do you know the subject matter of the passage? Do you know the purpose behind writing this passage? Do you have some of those key ideas in your mind where if I ask you, hey, where was that mentioned, you'd be able to go back to that relevant part? If yes, then fabulous. If no, then that is one skill that you definitely need to go ahead and focus on acquiring. Okay, so in order to answer this, you need to refer to the first half of the first paragraph, which will basically take you to the first slide. And if you go there, C will definitely be your answer. Here is the next one. So what's your take on question number 2? Now, if you have a mental overview, this will also be very easy. It will not even take you much time. So go ahead, and when you answer, give me the answer to question number 2. Don't forget to put 2 before your answer so that you know which question you have answered. All right, so now this is a kind of question where if you start working with elimination, life becomes easy. How? You notice they've not mentioned oceans anywhere. Then when you talk about B, they tend to change their location with time. Nah, it is not even mentioned. They tend to change their form with time. And majority of them are immutable in nature. What is immutable? Immutable is something that does not change, whereas the passage very clearly tells us that fungi change. So this is false as per the passage. So A, B and C were easy to rule out in case you happen to have that idea in your mind, and thus D will become your best answer choice here. So, I mean, there are times when you may have to go back and say, yaar, what is the exact thing attributed to their being difficult to detect and count? Exactly कौन सी चीज बोली हुई थी? हाँ, लेकिन यहाँ पे A, B और C हैं ही गलत, क्योंकि गलत इन द सेंस के A तो कहीं मेंशन ही नहीं है, B में वो लोकेशन चेंज नहीं कर रहे, फॉर्म चेंज कर रहे हैं, तो वो गलत हो गया, C वैसे ही फॉल्स है, तो बचता ही D था, and therefore we had to go ahead and mark D as our answer. Okay, so I know, Ayushman, I know. So as I said, I am keeping the difficulty that you're CAT 25, yeah, we are so far away from the exam. I don't want to really throw you in the deep end. We'll gradually build it up to that level for sure. Question number 3 on your screen. So another fact-based / specific detail question. Let me see how fast you give me the answer to this. So I said this is a kind of question that I expect all of you to share the correct answer of. The deal is, can we be fast? Can we be quick? And it all boils down to that mental overview. And the answers that are streaming in are by and large okay. Yes, it is A, Peter Scott. And don't forget to use the seeker of your video to refer to the passage. Question number 4 on your screen. Road to Billions. Yeah, once we are done with this passage, I'll go ahead and answer your questions. There are multiple questions that you'd asked questions earlier too, but तब तक फिर passage शुरू कर लिया था, ये passage खत्म करते हैं, उसके बाद let's go ahead and talk. So when was mushroom recognized as threatened globally? Again, it all boils down to how fast can you answer. So far I've gotten A, I've gotten B. So if you want an answer to this, you need to go back to the first paragraph because it was split into two slides. I'll in fact guide you even more precisely. You need to essentially get into the second slide where there was this discussion about a comparison with plants displays illustrates the disparity. Right? So we started work on the plants in 1970s, and it's only some 1960s, in fact, according to the passage, only some 40 years later in 2006 that we reached the fungi. Okay, so here is the fifth one. Which of the following is an example of spore bearing structures? Giving you a lot of fact based questions today to test whether you are able to go back to the right area or not. So what matters to me today is the speed, along with of course accuracy तो हमेशा चाहिए यार, but साथ साथ ये देख लें जरा. और आज का डिफिकल्टी लेवल वैसे हमने इंट्रोड्यूस कर ही दिया है थ्रू what do you call that, the genre or the subject matter. All right, so the answer has to be option A. Yes. So once again, just go back, first paragraph, first slide, towards the end. In fact, towards the middle, you'd find it there. हाँ, एवोकाडो को कंसिडर सी तो कंसिडर ही नहीं हो सकता, कहीं तो सी और डी तो मेंशन्ड भी नहीं थे पैसेज में. ठीक ही बोल रहे हो. ये रहा क्वेश्चन नंबर 6. विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग स्टेटमेंट्स इज फॉल्स? अब आप देख रहे हैं, even this is a specific detail question, but then the moment I change the question stem, which of the following is false, now if you don't look at the options, it will either test your ability to infer, so it can be an inference based question, or it can be a fact based question. We don't know that until we go through the options. Okay, since I have gone through the options right before your session while putting these in, I know, but now you realize in the previous questions, you just had to check for one fact. In this question, you have to go back and check A, B, C, and D, each one of these four. And that is when we start realizing the importance of that mental overview, because now you need to go back to 4 places. Okay, so chale, isko kariye, bataiye, and then we'll see. Okay, so B it is, because the conservation effort, the origins lie not in America but in Europe. So B is definitely false. Absolutely, yes. Mental retention does come into picture. Here is the next one. Now, most of you, when we talk about the cat, our focus happens to be excessively on the cat. In the cat exam, we don't get very many vocabulary based questions, but then the moment you go beyond cat, in the cat we do get vocab based questions once in a while, but the moment you target these other exams, so you talk about NMAT, you talk about something like say CMAT, Maharashtra CET, at times even ZAT, you are going to get these contextual vocabulary questions, and thus you need to be ready for these too. So what's your take on question number 7? अभी स्किप मत करो, अभी कौन सा नेगेटिव मार्किंग चल रही है? अरे आई एम ऑब्वियसली नॉट गोना डिडक्ट द मार्क्स, सो यू गेट दैट अपॉर्चुनिटी टू आंसर इट विदाउट एनी हेजिटेशन. So what do we mean by compliant? You know the word comply. Let's link it with that. What is comply? When you comply with the instructions, you follow the instructions. So somebody who is compliant is somebody who complies. Compliant is somebody who will obey the instructions or the rules. A compliant individual is somebody who tends to agree with others, especially to an excessive degree. Right? So ये हो गया compliant. अब अपने को चाहिए इसमें closest. So for example, I'm getting B from you, indeterminate. Indeterminate basically means something which is not exactly known or not exactly defined, not exactly established. Is that connected with compliant? No. So we can rule it out. How about challenging? This is kind of opposite in some senses. So we can rule that out as well. That leaves you with C and D. You can actually start eliminating. What is apparent? What is amenable? Work from there. Apparent is something that is obvious, something that is clearly visible. And what is amenable? Amenable is an individual who is very open and responsive to suggestions, is amenable. A person who can be easily persuaded or controlled is a person who is amenable. So you notice this overlap between compliant and amenable now, and that is why our answer must be option D. And here is one last question based on the passage for you. So which of the following are features of lichenized fungi? Let's see what you share as your answer. Okay. So in question number 8, so first, they are relatively conspicuous in the wild. Yes, I'll in fact read out the relevant part. On our second slide, which gives you the second half of the first paragraph, it says most lichens are relatively conspicuous in the wild and have thalli which are visible throughout the year. So third says not visible. It's definitely false. First is definitely true. They're relatively amenable to conservation related in studies is something that you can infer from the last 3-4 lines of the first paragraph. They are ahead of the pack. They are conspicuous. They have thalli which are visible. So they're already getting noticed. They're already getting protected. So this is also true through inference. And therefore our answer must be option A. Okay, but once again, those of you who are just about starting out, the difficulty level of the passage was at par with what you get in the exams. The difficulty level of the questions was comparatively lower. As we progress further, the difficulty level will increase. Typically in the CAT exam, after a passage, you get 4 questions. I just took you through a greater variety, a greater set. And I hope that I've managed to emphasize this one single fact that you are supposed to do what? Create a mental overview of the passage. Now the questions that I missed out on. Road to Billions. Hello sir, how are you? I am doing fabulous. I hope you doing equally great. Then what else? और कौन से क्वेश्चंस रह गए? हाउ टू टैकल डिफिकल्ट वर्ड्स. यार एक काम करें, आप ना यूट्यूब में जाकर के सर्च करें वोकैब्युलरी स्ट्रैटेजी सेशन by Vikrant Kathuria. Okay, so you will find these videos where I've talked about this in great detail. So hopefully that will help. How many RCs we will practice today? One, the one that we've just gone through. Anything else? Okay, so I hope कुछ questions तो answer हो ही गए. ये रहा आपका अगला सवाल. ये क्या question है वो यहाँ रहा. So in the B school exams we get this question type which is known as parajumbles. In parajumbles they pick up some sentences fully. I mean, keep your finger crossed. There are times when they pick it up is not getting better. तो उसका क्या कारण हो सकता है यार? What can be the reason behind it? Is there a lag in the video? हाँ. So पहली चीज तो ये कि it is a long term game. It is not something that happens overnight. ठीक है? साथ साथ इसमें एक और काम करना है आपको. Don't forget to work on vocabulary alongside. So don't forget to work on vocabulary and then alongside read, and then that reading should also be done using more challenging things, and it will yield results only in long term. So if you think that a week or 2 weeks of reading will make you noticeably better, no, you're getting better every. चलिए, go ahead, solve this question and then we'll see. क्यों हो रहा है आज ये? मतलब हमारे सेशन में आज नॉर्मली तो नहीं होती ये चीजें. आज पता नहीं क्यों हो रही है. I think there are some service related issues apparently here today. देखें. हाँ, मोमेंटरी लैग आया था यार बीच में. आई थिंक थिंग्स आर फाइन नाउ. So we are back to things are back to usual now. ओके, आस्था शाह, एब्सोल्युटली यार. पैराजम्बल्स में ना हमें पैराग्राफ देते हैं, उसके सेंटेंसेस देते हैं 4 या 5. वो जंबल किए होते हैं, हमें उनको मोस्ट लॉजिकल ऑर्डर में अरेंज करके शेयर करना होता है. सो you can think of this as a question type where you remember those reasoning questions where which deal with seating arrangement. So in a way you can think of this question as a scenario where there are 4 sentences and you need to make them sit in a particular order. So what is that order going to be for you? And there are clues, huh? For example, look at second. Among the most influential of these phrases is undoubtedly disruption. So these. Then you look at, there are certain phrases that are central. Then they, what does this they refer to? Look at these quote marks here and see if they tell you something. Should be a full stop here actually. Okay, so let us see. Now, first is talking about, Riyanka, particularly for you. When you say the concept of disruption is a way for companies, the press, or simply individuals to think about questions of continuity and discontinuity. So this basically gives you what? It gives you the definition of the concept of disruption. So there is a sentence which is introducing the word disruption, and the quotes tell you that it is going to be used in a specific, unique way. And then there is a sentence that defines that term. So which sentence should come before? You would need to introduce the word first and then define it. Introduce a term first and then define it, or define it first and then introduce it. Obviously पहले introduce करेंगे फिर define करेंगे. So on the basis of that, I can tell you for sure that 2 needs to come before 1. So if you give me an answer where 1 comes before 2, we will probably have a problem. No? So what else? What else? Now, the they here refers to these phrases. These phrases also refers to there are certain phrases. So I can also tell you that both second and fourth need to come after third. So now the question is, now that we have come this far, the question right now is, so we definitely need to start with 3. Now after that we can have 4-2 or 2-4, and then we will have 1. But then we know that you are introducing a term and defining it, they should come together. So actually 2 plus 1 is better together, and therefore 4 should be put before, and thus if you combine it all, you get 3, 4, 2, 1. So that's your answer. So koi baat nahi, aaj nahi hua, it's okay. Here is, try it once more. Okay, here is another one for you. Why don't you go ahead and try it now? So read, hang on, let me just go ahead and fix it once. काफी सारे spacing off हो गया यार इसमें, तो एक सेकंड दो, मैं ज़रा स्पेसिंग सही कर दूँ. एक सेंटेंस में कॉमा वॉमा में थोड़ा अननेसेसरी स्पेसिंग आ रही है. Okay, so now that I fixed it, let me give it to you once again. Here you go. So 10th question, try it out. So what's your take? What's your take for this one? चलिए साथ में पढ़े. When I look at first, it says this is the cause of what may be called the natural change. So this what does the pronoun this refer to? Second, the reason lies perhaps in the fact. Now you notice there is something missing here. The reason for what? That needs to be mentioned before, isn't it? So that's a clue in the fact that so many persons, millions in fact, speak a language under varying conditions and in different situations. Okay, then third, an interesting question is, why do languages break up and fragment into different dialects, sub-dialects, varieties and other languages? That's a question. Then fourth has also. So these are all clues that are scattered around here for us to go ahead and pick, choose. So tell me, what do you think should the answer be? Okay, so a lot of you have done a fabulous job. So you've arrived at 3241. I'll just bring in one tiny change. We need 3 to 1 and then 4. So I'm going with 1 4 and not 4 4 1. Why? So if you look at second, second is basically an answer to third. So both of these must come together. So 3 2 absolutely spot on. Third gives you a question, second supplies the answer. But then come to think of it, second gives you a reason behind the change of language. Now if you look at fourth, fourth also gives you a reason behind change in language. If you write 1 after 4, you will have two reasons, and because you have two reasons you will not be able to use a singular pronoun this. Then you would have to use these or those. These are the causes, those are the causes. If you put 1 after 4, you will have to go in and put a plural pronoun and not a singular pronoun. And because first has a singular pronoun, it cannot come after fourth. It has to become, it has to be put before 4. So you notice there are these tiny little things that can at times allow us to zero in on the right answer. Okay, now on the next screen, on the next slide, you will have this question type which is called paragraph odd one out. So what do we get in paragraph odd one out? The examiner gives us 5 sentences. 4 of these sentences belong to the same paragraph, whereas one does not belong to that same paragraph. So your job is to identify the one that does not belong to that paragraph and choose that sentence, which is the odd one out, as your answer. So here is a paragraph odd one out for you. Okay, so just keep your eye on the right hand side bottom corner and you'd see. So what do you think? Which one would you label as the odd one out now? Okay, Pramila, DP, I see that. So absolutely yes. If we go ahead and sorry, what was okay? If we go ahead and look at this particular question, I'd say that these two are definitely getting connected. So neither of these can be the answer. So that's blue oceans, right? Then if you look at 1 and 2, both of these are basically connected to red oceans, turns the water bloody. So they are also getting linked. So basically, if I look at 1, 2, 4, and 5, they are talking about two different types of markets, blue oceans and red oceans. Third is talking about payoffs that you get from market creation. There is no other sentence which is talking about market creation. Yeah? In blue ocean, we are talking about demand creation. It's an uncontested market space. So the market space already exists. It's just that people aren't really fighting. The competitors are not really fighting among each other. So third is talking about something which is completely different, and therefore third should be chosen as Pramila says 4 and 3 same and water bloody means red ocean. Huh? But 4 and 3, how are they same? Fourth is talking about demand creation. Third is talking about market creation, which are two completely different things. So we have to read it carefully. It's not market creation, demand creation are different. Okay. So with that, let's go ahead and dive into our next odd one out. So what's your take on this? No, Ayushman, ball courts and ballrooms are completely different. No, so no, there is no overlap there really. Okay, so the correct answer here is option 4. I want you to read 1, 2, 3, and 5. So first organized team ball game was held there by Mayans. The origin dates back thousands of years, and here are those quotes that are available there. So fourth will not really get connected. So if you look at 1, 2, 3, and 5, all of them are talking about the history of the sports. 4 does not. It talks about the present, not the past. Okay. So yeah, it can be part of the same article. When I teach this in the classes, I of course go ahead and talk about how there are 4 different ways in which paragraph odd one out questions are created in the exams. One of those ways is where you pick up a sentence from a different paragraph. So if you look at fourth is likely to be from some other paragraph in the same article, but it won't really fit into the theme created by the other 4. And that's why fifth. That's why sentence 4 is the best one. So that's what I had brought for you today. I will keep meeting you regularly to practice more and more things together. But before I leave, here is something for you to ponder over. Have the courage to live the life that you've always wanted. And before you sign out, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel in case you are new. And for that, guys, we will go ahead and conduct sessions for you separately. Those sessions will allow me to talk to more of you guys together. Okay, so I'll see you there. So once again, have a great day ahead, get a great evening ahead. Whenever you watch it, have a great time ahead, basically. And until we meet next, stay safe, stay focused, stay in touch. Take care, and I'll see you soon.